broadcasting from an undisclosed location, from a secret hunting spot known only to him, and the guy who told him about it, and possibly the guy who told him. It's a show all about hunting in New Zealand and around the globe. This is The Hunting Show. Find The Hunting Show on Facebook and Twitter for up-to-date information on upcoming shows and topics.
Facts and figures about hunting. I've found myself today trawling through the internet, looking through or wading through the massive amounts of facts and figures that people put out onto the internet about hunting in general. And the interesting thing is both the pro-hunting groups and the anti-hunting groups and lobbies certainly have got a lot of information on their website. But the thing I find interesting about it is a lot of it is masquerading as fact, and actually all it is opinion. Just for New Zealanders, I don't think as a New Zealander, we don't really appreciate how strong the anti-hunting lobby is overseas. Over here, we do have the odd one that pops up from time to time, but as a whole, we don't really hear a lot about it. Hunters go about their daily business without too much squawking in their ear about their sport and how cruel it is to animals and how it shouldn't happen. We're pretty fortunate there. But I will have you know that around the world, this is quite a strong organisation, or these lobby groups are particularly strong. But again, they don't seem to have any real fact to back things up. It seems like all they're doing is throwing out an opinion, putting a little star next to it, making it look like a fact, and then that gets repeated, because I'm seeing this quite a lot, on another website somewhere else, and then someone else referenced that website, and all of a sudden what started as an opinion is now a fact. Even some of the figures that I've bantered around in the past myself vary massively. We talk about the 300,000 Kiwis potentially identify themselves as hunters. That figure's kicking around the net, but there's another figure of around 65,000. And unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly how many hunters there are in New Zealand, and I don't think anyone can. But I would like to ask you, if you have found a website out there that is based on good study, scientific research, that actually has some really good facts about hunting and its environmental impact, also on how it helps people out, on how good it is for youth, all that kind of stuff. Any really good hunting facts and figures based on real studies, please send me the link, www.thehuntingshow.co.nz. My email address is on there, info@thehuntingshow, or post them to me on Facebook. I get a number of emails from Facebook all the time, and please send them through to me, because I really would like to have a little bit more ammunition kicking around so I can talk to you about it, but also use it in interviews. I do have some stuff. I've probably been a little bit negative today just on how much of it is like this, but I would like those figures. I'd like to say a little bit of a hello to Ryan Lowe. Thank you very much. He's a American who has spent some time in New Zealand, about a year, and has two children that were born here, and he'd like to bring them back over here and do a bit of hunting. And Ryan, please do. I'm sure they'll have the time of their lives, and thank you so much for your very informative email and your comments. On the show, we get all kinds of offers of trialling products and looking at products, and most of them are things that we kind of dismiss because they're unusual. But one product that I've been very impressed with lately, and I've had a good look around, is the Vortex Optics range of scopes. And I decided I would get in touch with them, and joined by phone, I have Mark Boardman, who's the marketing manager for Vortex Optics in the United States. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing great, Stephen. No, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely, no worries. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all?
So, I guess, work-wise background and personally, I've always been, an avid, hunter and fisherman as well. Grew up doing that, had a very, strong family background in that. And I finished school in Washington State and realized about at the end of it that the only thing I still knew how to do was hunt and fish, so I better get a job in the industry. So that led me to a couple, outdoor retail-oriented jobs, and then following that, I worked for Cabela's for almost 7 years in Sydney, Nebraska, and then got the opportunity here at Vortex, and man, just saw a ton of potential and a fast-growing company and a fast-moving company, and had to take it, and certainly haven't looked back since. So,
the interesting thing is Vortex is probably one of the lesser-known scope brands here in New Zealand. But one thing I've noticed about it is everyone that tries it is suitably impressed with the product. Can you tell us a little bit about the Vortex story?
So yeah, any way you look at it, I guess comparatively, Vortex is, a fairly young brand, probably somewhere around the 10-year mark, and like I said, you could probably look at it a couple different ways. A lot of that, the products and the direction that you see today with the types of optics that are available through us now. A lot of that momentum has happened within the last 5 years. So there's just been a tremendous amount of growth and progress, and the products have evolved, quite substantially, over the last 5 years.
The thing I was first impressed with was the eye relief. I picked up the scope. I'd compared it to a couple of other brands, and straight away that was really impressive. Can you tell us, first of all, why that's important, but also why was it important for Vortex to get that right?
So yeah, number one, why is it important? In any scenario where you're going to need a rifle scope, it's certainly quite important to be, to easily be able to, acquire your subject, as well as, have, over here we call it an eye box. It's almost, which is just kind of more of a descriptor for, that apparent field of view. And then, of course, with the eye relief, being able to get that clean, clear, and full sight picture without having to be too close to the ocular of the rifle scope is definitely important, because, as the recoil of a rifle, if you're too close, you can get scoped, and nobody likes that. That doesn't feel good. So,
yeah. And
maybe it's more a function of self-preservation.
The brand itself, though, has an interesting backstory. Who created it? How did it come about?
That has certainly been an evolution as well. So, Vortex is a family owned and operated company. It's a veteran-owned company. Dan Hamilton, actually, you can trace, I guess, the roots back to a retail background, which evolved into a, kind of a proprietary brand for Wild Birds Unlimited stores, and then which evolved into a retail store that sold everybody's optics. And then from there, he had a desire to, I guess, through all those experiences, gained, perspective on both the, the retailer as well as the manufacturer side, and wanted to start a new brand of optics, and felt that with that experience and those perspectives that they could do it better, and so that's where the Vortex brand was born out of that, and is what you see today.
You've got it is a massive range. I was pretty impressed. I've actually got one of your product catalogs that I flogged from somewhere in front of me, and it keeps growing year on year by the looks of it. Why such a big range? Why can't you just have 3 scopes that kind of do it all?
Well, and that's from our end. And you're absolutely right. It's a deep lineup of optics, in kind of the 3 major categories, binoculars, rifle scopes, and spotting scopes. And even within, those categories, you have several different tiers of performance quality, as well as, features. I mean, different optics are built to do different things. A rifle scope that may be perfect for, we'll say the Midwest whitetail woods, may not be what you want when you're hunting out west or in New Zealand or, in the high country. So, all those different optics, I guess perform different functions, fill different niches, and ultimately the unique needs of each consumer.
Now, it's interesting. We hear lifetime warranty bantered around all the time. Someone
Sure.
said that's something you guys take really seriously. You do actually mean lifetime warranty.
Yeah, certainly. No, I mean, we do take it seriously. It's not something that we just, print on paper. I mean, with something like that, the proof is in the pudding, and we back that up. We certainly believe in helping our customers, not only before and during, but after the sale.
Yeah. Now, if we talked about hunting over here, we have a pretty gnarly sort of bush here. We either have close quarters bush stalking, and we do that all year round, which is something that you guys don't unfortunately get over there. We have all year round hunting. There's no seasons here. And then there's also these big wide open tops hunting that you probably described earlier. But we'll go back to this bush hunting. For close quarters bush stalking, do you have any sort of, particularly on deer, do you have any sort of recommendations? What should we be looking for in a scope in general and then in yours?
So yeah, I mean, and I'd say you'd probably, for that close quarters type things, a lot of magnification, may not, be a need, So I'd say, something certainly, possibly even a 1-4 or a 1-6, and then we also have kind of some optics in several different configurations in that kind of 2.5 to 10. By 32, 2.5 to 10 by 44. That gives, a hunter, that nice low end, for quick target acquisition in close quarters. But if you do get into some open country, you can certainly, crank your magnification up for medium to even, longer range shots. So I would probably lean towards those two things. And then for, kind of what I think is, ultimate versatility, if a person is potentially doing both things but wants to use one rifle, kind of that 2.5 to 10 or a 4 to 16 would be a good fit.
When someone goes into a hunting and fishing store and picks up a scope, what should they be looking for?
I'd say a lot of things. You want to make sure, like you talked about, eye relief, clarity, resolution, color fidelity, low light transmission. You definitely want to make sure that the optics are fully multi-coated, for optimal light transmission. Our extra low dispersion glass, is, kind of a techie designation that you may want to look for as well. We have several options, in both first and second focal plane, which is, kind of a different, so you can get a reticle that's in the first focal plane or the second focal plane. A first focal plane reticle will appear to change in direct proportion to your magnification. So as you go up in magnification, the reticle will appear to grow. As you go down, it'll appear to shrink. What that gives the shooter or the hunter, definitely more important, the longer, at longer ranges where you may be wanting to either shoot off your reticle if you know the dope of your cartridge, and want to use those subtensions for elevation correction, or also even if you're dialing your elevation, let's say you say, hey, it's a 700-yard shot, and you dial your elevation turret. Those subtensions will still remain constant for your wind holds, because a lot of guys will dial their elevation for longer shots, but they'll hold their wind off the reticle. So, but not everybody uses that. So we have second focal plane options as well. So it sometimes comes down to the needs of the shooter.
You're absolutely right, personal preference. But when they're in the shop, is there a good way to hit, because you're in a high lit environment, it's not particularly dark, you're looking generally across the store at some trophy that's up on the wall to try and understand or to figure out how your optics work. Have you got any tips and tricks in that environment to making sure you're getting the right product?
Some shops will have a resolution chart, which you can certainly use and compare, one optic to another. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty tough scenario, actually, that you bring up, because oftentimes, like you said, it's indoors, it's lit with artificial light. You're not able to kind of, compare things side by side. I guess, my one recommendation, if the shop allows you to do it, take it outside, show up in the afternoon in that fading light or early morning, and kind of do your own due diligence when looking through the various options. I guess so that would be kind of my one tip. Indoors or showing or looking through them at midday. It's kind of tough to a lot of optics will look fine in those scenarios, but we need to kind of get them out in the real world, and that's kind of where the rubber meets the road, as we say here. So,
the interesting thing I've seen is a lot of guys are spending serious money on their centerfire, and they're going and they're buying all the accessories that go with that, and then the scope's kind of an afterthought. And in my understanding, it should almost be the other way around.
Yeah, well, of course we like to think so.
I bet you do. But, I think the scope's going to make the biggest difference, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, I mean, you certainly need a good, accurate rifle, but yeah, you don't want that scope to be an afterthought because you're not going to be able to hit what you can't see. If your scope doesn't track true, it's not going to adjust properly. If it's not waterproof and fog-proof and shock-proof, it's not going to hold up under demanding conditions. So which that's the last thing that you want is to be on a hunt or you're out in the field and you're away from, where you may be able to, take care of a problem, and all of a sudden your hunt's ruined because, you tried to save a little bit and unfortunately, your optic is, rendered useless, So, I mean, you definitely, it's not something you want to skimp on. I guess in the same breath, I'll say, within the Vortex line, we talked about, the different, I guess you could say, tiers or options, and depending on, a person's budget or their needs, one thing that we definitely strive to do, and I think we accomplish, is we provide a level of quality and performance, wherein at each tier, a person is going to get more for their dollar than if they spent it somewhere else.
And I'm going to make a comment here, and this isn't a commercial interview, you're not paying me, but these things are really well priced for what they are. You compare them to some of the great European brands of optics, and we're certainly not having a go at them, but you guys are coming in at a good price point and kind of getting the job done.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we like to think so. I mean, we have, everything from, quote unquote, entry level, even though I hesitate to use that label because I think it outperforms that, but all the way on, up to optics that compete at that true top tier of performance.
Now, you're a hunter. You've obviously done plenty of hunting over there in the United States. Have you done any other country around the world, or are you just kind of stuck to your knitting, as it were?
So yeah, mostly here in the States. Done hunted fairly extensively out west. Arizona, Alaska, Montana. Most of the western states. I guess Canada. I guess that's probably the most. If you want to get international, I did hunt bears up in BC one year. But that's not too far off for us here. So, but yeah, no, actually, I'm envious of definitely a lot of the opportunities that you guys have, because it looks like some pretty amazing country and some pretty amazing animals to chase around.
Oh, the hunting here is pretty gnarly. But again, in the United States, one thing that Kiwis find hard to appreciate, and I haven't hunted in the United States yet, but that you guys, it's not, you can't say, oh, hunting in the US is like this. It's almost like saying hunting in the North Island, New Zealand is the same as it is in the South Island. But you can hunt anywhere from that serious gnarly country in one place to some really open stuff where you're up in tree blinds, and it's a massive country with a huge variety of hunting available, eh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the landscape changes, dramatically, depending on where you're at, from 10,000 foot peaks, chasing, mountain game, to, sitting in a tree stand in the Midwest, trying to rattle on a whitetail, so, and I think, you talk about, having, different options, and that's why, I mean, there's just so many, depending on your region, you just, hunters have different needs, and we definitely try to accommodate as many as we can.
Have you got a good hunting story for us?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I'm trying to think. I'll try and think of a good one. I guess I can think of one. I was hunting coos deer in Arizona, which they're kind of, and you're probably familiar with them, but they're just a very petite subspecies of the whitetail, predominantly found in Arizona, a little bit New Mexico, and then in Mexico as well. But the country they inhabit is, it's somewhat mountainous, generally very open, very arid. I can tell you, it's almost rotten rock. It seems like, every step you take, looks solid, and every rock that you step on wants to roll out from underneath your feet. But they're just the deer. They're almost invisible, and I'd say the tactic, most serious coos deer hunters use. And I can tell you, it's definitely the most optics intensive hunt, that I've ever done. But, you take, generally, a 15 by 56 or 20 by 56, binocular, lock it down on a good tripod with a good fluid head, and you just get to work. And I mean, you will literally, glass for hours, and it's almost, at least I know for me, it was eye-opening, how important optics were, and it's very addicting at the same time, I guess, as is most hunting. But one of the guys that I was with was from the area and actually glassed up a buck when he saw it was buried in a Palo Verde tree, and he glassed it up when it licked its nose. That's what he saw.
Fantastic.
And it's just like, which is, mind-blowing to me. But, I mean, I guess that was kind of an interesting, it's maybe not the most exciting story, but, kind of, I guess, hopefully exhibits, the true how important optics can be and what you can do with good optics.
Absolutely. Now, if they want to find out, or if listeners want to find out more about Vortex Optics in general, your website's the best place to go?
Vortexoptics.com. And, they can check things out there. They can also give us a call here at the office, 800-426-0048, and get a hold of any of us here. I'm happy to talk about optics or hunting in general and answer any questions anybody may have. And
your Facebook page definitely keeps people informed about your product. How do they find you on Facebook?
Yeah, if you just, Facebook, Vortex Optics should be able to find us, no problem. And we love engaging with our customers, both domestic and international. So we welcome that interaction. We love to talk with everybody, see pictures, success stories, and then and just, get customer feedback as well.
And I've checked out your Facebook page. I will be putting a link to both your Facebook page and your website down in the comments section of this podcast. So you can just scroll down if you're on iTunes. If you're listening on iHeart, you've just got to open that window with the comments in it, and you'll be able to link directly to the page. Thank you so much for your time. I know that you've probably got very little of it. You're a very busy company and a growing one at that. And hopefully, maybe in a couple of years, we'll catch up with you and find out how things are going.
Yeah, certainly, Stephen. No, and I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure. And feel free to give us a shout anytime. And take care, and we'll certainly keep in touch.
Thank you. If there's a subject you'd like us to cover on the show, all you need to do is email it to me, www.thehuntingshow.co.nz, or find us on Facebook. We are looking for ideas all the time, and we've been a little bit careful about the political stuff. We know there's an election coming up very soon. The offer has gone out to all party leaders, and that's only party leaders. If you'd like to be interviewed on the show, that's all you need to do is get in touch with us, and we'll gladly give you your opportunity to tell us your views and your policies on things that pertain to hunters in general. One more thing, with a little bit being branded as an anti-1080 show, not necessarily because I've said where I stand on the issue, because I actually haven't. It's more because we've interviewed a couple of lobby groups that are on the negative side of the 1080 debate. One thing I'd like to say is that I'm never going to probably make public my views on the subject, mainly because I'd like to stay neutral on this particular topic. But secondly, the pro-1080 groups have had the opportunity and have still got the opportunity to put their case across on the show anytime they like. And unfortunately, they haven't. They haven't replied to us at all. Silence is deafening, guys. If you would like to appear on the show or at least put your side of the story across, you're more than welcome, and we will let you have your say. That's me for another week, guys. Be careful out there. Good hunting.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location, from a secret hunting spot known only to him, and the guy who told him about it, and possibly the guy who told the guy who told him. It's a show all about hunting in New Zealand and around the globe. This is The Hunting Show. Find The Hunting Show on Facebook and Twitter for up-to-date information on upcoming shows and topics.